begin our evening. So we'll start with a little purification. This, by the way, if I haven't mentioned it, since we've had some new people here, this is called a Vajra bell. It's a Tibetan temple bell. And the tradition of this bell is that the monks would ring this to purify spaces of, whether it was evil spirits or this kind of thing. And I think of it more as purifying space just from the negativity or the negative energy that we ourselves are carrying. Sometimes we come in with a little anger or a little worry or a little fear or frustration. It could be all sorts of different things. And it's important and it's helpful to kind of check in and notice that stuff in yourself, because very often you can intentionally just put that down. And so setting our intentions for our practice time is very helpful. So with that, I would just invite everybody to close your eyes for a moment and maybe just check in with yourself. Is there anything you're carrying tonight that would be good to put down for at least an hour and a half? Any anger or stress or agitation, anything you're worried about or fearful about, anything that just kind of seems to put pressure on you or eclipse your natural happiness. Those kinds of things can be put down, and they can be put down temporarily so that we can heal and restore ourselves, nurture ourselves, and then we can pick them back up after the meditation talk, after we're done here, and then we can work with them more skillfully, with wisdom. So with that, I'm going to ring this bell. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Namaskar, everybody, and welcome. So this would be a good time to get comfortable for our meditation practice together. In that closet are yoga mats and blocks and cushions and blankets and all kinds of stuff. So help yourself to any of those things and begin to get comfortable. As you can see, we have people in a variety of positions and postures. And what I suspect is that they're all the best position and posture for each individual. And that's the way you need to think of it. I like to sit in the traditional posture, the Burmese posture that works for me. Song sitting in a half lotus posture, which works for her. Don laying down. If you're sitting in a chair and your feet can't make good contact with the floor, a cushion like that helps. But the idea is just to remove some of the obvious conflict from your body so that 5 minutes into meditation you're not, kind of struggling with, oh, that really hurts now. If that does happen, feel free to move or adjust so that you are more comfortable. You don't have to sit still the whole time. So feel free to move and adjust. But it helps to check in with your body in the beginning and just remove the obvious stuff. So find a way to be that is comfortable. It can be helpful to check in and just look for symmetry in the body so that both sides of the body are bearing about the same amount of weight. Let your breath be natural, not restricted in any way, not manipulated in any way. If you feel comfortable doing so, you can close your eyes. By closing our eyes, we have the advantage of eliminating visual distractions. And this can help us in meditation, but if you prefer to keep your eyes open, that's perfectly fine. So from here, I'm going to sound the meditation bell. Please just follow the sound of the bell, and then I'll begin to guide us through the practice. Follow the sound of the bell as it fades into silence. Let the silence be an invitation to turn your senses inward. So for a while you can just let go of the habit of the mind, which is to be projected outward, to be curious and engaged with the outside world. Instead, turn your awareness inward. It can be helpful to just become aware of what it feels like to be sitting here or to be laying here right now in your own body. Just the feeling of presence, of awareness in your own body. Letting go of all of the outside curiosities. Just focusing on this inner stability. And with this sense of awareness and presence established, let's bring our awareness up to the top of the head and to the area of the scalp. And for the next few moments, just observe physical sensations anywhere within the area of the scalp. So as you're observing the scalp, what are the sensations you might notice? And they could be temperature sensations. You may feel warmth or coolness. That warmth or coolness could be from the body itself or from the atmosphere around you. Sometimes there is movement in the room, air movement, and you might feel that on the surface of the scalp or on the hair follicles. And sometimes there are sensations on the surface of the skin, a tickle, an itch, pulsation. Just let yourself notice. And as you observe these sensations, let go of one of the habits of the mind, which is to want to name the sensations and kind of evaluate them, create a little narrative about them. Let go of that and just let yourself experience them. As they come up, just let yourself be with them. As they go away, as they start to fade, just let them fade. Within those sensations in the scalp, if you become aware of tension, you can release the tension, just allowing that to leave the body. And then continue to observe the sensations in the scalp, just staying with it. Stay with the awareness of sensation. Those sensations arise, they last for a little while, and then they fade away. And now from the scalp, we can let our awareness move downward into the forehead, through the temples. Let it move down through the eyebrows and into the eyes. And so in these 4 parts of the body, we'll repeat that same process, just opening up the awareness to sensation. Temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin, being aware of these sensations as they come up, remaining objective, No stories are needed, just observe. No judgment, just observe. Let the tension go anywhere you discover it. If the brow is furrowed, or the eyebrows are raised, or the eyes themselves are squinted, anywhere there's tension, just release it. Allow it to leave the body unconditionally, and then continue to observe the sensations. Now from the temples, we can let the awareness move downward into the ears. I'll start to guide you through multiple parts of the body now. So as I do, just follow that simple process. Just observe the sensations. Let the tension go. Moving to the ears. Then from the ears forward into the cheekbones. Further on into the face. Observing sensations arising, sensations passing away, noticing tension, letting it go, allowing the awareness to move downward from the eyes, passing through the nose and lips and mouth and chin. Observe those sensations. No judgment, no stories, just aware. Let the tension go. Sometimes the jaws are clenched. There's tightness in the lips or mouth. Let that go. Continue to observe. And then now from the chin, we can begin to guide the awareness downward into the neck. See if you can really feel that movement of awareness down in the throat, moving through the sides of the neck and into the back of the neck. Again, simply observing sensations, temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. And there's nothing that you're supposed to be feeling to do this right, or nothing you shouldn't be feeling. You're just open to whatever is there, but whatever is happening, you notice. These are the sensations. And if there's tension in the neck, you let that go. Just let it leave the body. Envision the image of a butterfly. I share this image sometimes. If you found a butterfly in your porch or in your home and it was stuck and wanting to get out, if you saw that butterfly with great compassion and kindness, you might walk up and cup it very gently in your hands and carry it outside. And with real goodwill, you'd release that butterfly into the trees or the grass. Just release your own tension in the same way, full of compassion and kindness. And now from the neck, we'll move the awareness downward into the shoulders, outward, observing those sensations. And as we move through the different parts of the body, you might notice new sensations like contact between your shoulders and the chair or the floor. Or sometimes you'll notice contact between your shoulders and your clothing. With the movement of the breath, there are sensations of touch. And if there is any tension in the shoulders, let that go. Allow the shoulders to drop if they're shrugged. Maintain only enough tension to maintain your posture. All the rest can be let go. From the shoulders, let the awareness move down into the upper arms, through the biceps, and then feel it moving to the inside part of the upper arms. Feel it moving to the triceps, the back part, and then to the outside part of the upper arm. Observe. Let go of the tension. Let the awareness flow downward through the elbow joints. Let it flow a little further down through the forearms. Again, really see if you can feel this movement of awareness. Sometimes you'll notice a soothing flow, this feeling of awareness moving down, illuminating the sensations, moving downward through the wrists, passing through the wrists into the hands. And then you can observe the different parts of the hands, the heels, the palms. Move around to the tops of the hands, and then the thumbs and fingers. All these sensations. And you can move your awareness down to the tips of your fingers. Spend a moment observing the fingernails. And see if you can feel anything there, any sensation at all. Sometimes there's a very subtle sensation. Just observe. Just observe. And now from the fingertips, we will move the awareness up to the top of the chest. So maintain a continuity of awareness, starting at the collarbones. Let your awareness flow downward through the chest. Feel it moving downward, all the way down to the base of the sternum. And then from there, feel it moving outward through the rib cage. Stay with the process of observing objectively and releasing tension. Just watching the sensations arise and pass away. You can move to the underarms now and let the awareness begin to flow downward through the sides of the body, all the way down to the waist. Sometimes as we move the awareness through the body, we'll begin to feel a real sense of calm and stability in the body. With our senses turned inward, it's not uncommon to feel a sense of blissfulness or joy in the practice of meditation. From the waist, you can bring your awareness forward into the belly. Observe the sensations of rising and falling, the belly expanding and contracting with the breath. And any tension in the belly, just release. Let the belly hang out freely, just in the same way that a baby's tummy hangs out freely. And then from the belly, we'll bring the awareness around to the top of the back. We'll start at the base of the neck and begin to allow the awareness to flow downward. Feel it moving through the shoulder blades, through the upper third of the back, illuminating the different sensations, allowing you to release the tension, and then just flowing further down to the middle third of the back. Repeat that process. Sensations arising, passing away. Sometimes they arise and stay for quite some time. Let the tension go. Allow the awareness to move downward into the lower back, observing objectively, no judging, just observing. Sometimes in parts of the body, oftentimes the back, we'll encounter sensations that are unpleasant or difficult. We might feel pain in the back. We might feel discomfort or fatigue. And sometimes it can be difficult to release the muscle tension around those unpleasant sensations. But what you've learned from simply sitting in meditation is that you have an incredible ability to allow the sensations of the body to be just as they are. And you are able to allow them to be without reacting to them with any negativity, with any aversion. You just allow them to be there. They may not be pleasant, they may be difficult, but you can still allow them to be there without resisting, without generating ill will or aversion. Just give them space. Let the tension leave the body. Down now from the lower back, we'll move into the sit bones, into the hips. Feel awareness moving through the pelvis. And just working with that same process. Observe. Know the sensations. Let the tension go. Just continue to be aware. And then moving from the pelvis down into the thighs. Become aware of the top surface of the thighs. From the top all the way down to the knee joint. So the full length of the thigh. Observing those sensations, just releasing. Letting that tension go. Moving to the outside surface of the thighs, from the top all the way down to the knee joint. And then rotating under to the underside of the thighs, observing those sensations and releasing. Then moving to the inside part of the thighs. Same process, observe, be objective, just allow, let the tension go. And then begin to move the awareness down through the knee joints. And the knees is another area where people frequently feel discomfort. You can just use that same simple technique of allowing extra space for those difficult sensations. Sometimes they seem to coagulate the flow of our awareness or of the energy of our awareness. So if you become aware of these spots, just allow the space for them to be there. Expand your awareness. Try to let the muscles go. Just allow everything to be as it is without resisting. It's the resistance that makes the unpleasant sensations turn into suffering. So don't resist. Let the awareness move from the knees down now through the calves, through the shins. Let it move further downward through the ankles. Keep going with the process of observing and releasing. Moving through the ankles into the feet now. Feel the heels. Sensations in the heels. Feel the soles. Sensations in the soles. The balls of the feet. Then moving around to the tops of the feet. Finally, awareness moves down into the toes, and then it moves into the toenails, illuminating them with awareness. Maybe you can detect a very subtle sensation in your toenails. Just observe. All sensations are impermanent. All of them are subject to arising and passing away. Now from our toes, we'll bring our awareness once again up to the top of the head and to the area of the scalp. And this time at your own pace, you can begin to guide your awareness back down through your face and head and through your body. You can do it more quickly if you like, but do take the time to be aware of each part of the body. Remain objective. Let go of stories. Just be present. Let the tension go and move through from the top of the body all the way down to the feet. Notice the places where tension has reappeared, places where you released it just moments ago. Tension returns in the body. These are the places where we hold our tension habitually. We are creatures of habit in many ways, and one of the things that are a habit for us, or is a habit for us, is the holding of tension. So you might notice that you clench your teeth quite often, or that your lips are pursed quite often, or that the shoulders are shrugged, or there's tightness in the belly. People hold tension in different ways. Be aware of those places of tension and allow it to leave the body. Just let it go. One of the things that happens to us as we go about living our lives each day is that we're bound to encounter things that maybe cause us to be angry or upset. And when that happens, we tense up the body in different places. And a little later on, something might happen that causes us to be fearful or worried. And a little later on, something might happen that stresses us out. Each time we have these difficult experiences, we hold tension. And as long as that tension is present in the body, it echoes or reverberates the difficult emotions that caused it. So the constant tension in the jaws leaves you with just a little latent energy from the anger or from the fear or from the worry, or that tension in the belly that always seems to be there, echoing the difficult emotions of fear and anger. Any place you find that tension, just let it go again and again. But be aware of this habit tendency, this habit energy of the body and mind. And now you can begin to use this as a tool to free yourself from worry, from suffering, from unhappiness. When you've had a chance to move your awareness all the way through your body at least once, we'll move our awareness together up to the base of the nose. And we'll spend a few minutes with the breath now. We'll begin by observing the little patch of skin beneath the nostrils and above the upper lip. Focus all of your awareness in that little area. And then from here you can expand the awareness just a bit further to include the rings of the nostrils. And then from the rings of the nostrils you can expand the awareness a bit further to include the nasal passages. So now we have this triangular area of the nose. With your awareness focused here, just start out by being aware of the movement of the breath. Breathing in, just be aware that you're breathing in. And breathing out, just be aware that you're breathing out. And just stay with the movement of the breath like that for a few moments. Breathing in, I'm aware. Breathing out, I'm aware. Breathing in, I'm aware. Breathing out, I'm aware. And then you can even let go of the words and just be with the movement of the breath. Try to stay with the full duration of the breath. Staying with the in-breath as it begins. It slows, tapers off, pauses, then reverses direction and becomes the out-breath. Stay with the out-breath for its full duration. It will slow, pause, reverse direction, and become the next in-breath. So with your continuity of awareness, you can be with the breath at all times, aware of the movement of the breath. And then you can expand your awareness a bit, anywhere within the triangular area of the nose. Become aware of the touch of the breath. There's a very subtle sensation. Breath coming in, there's a feeling of touch. Somewhere in the triangular area of the nose. Breath going out, there is a sensation of touch. Somewhere in the triangular area of the nose. Stay with the movement of the breath and the touch of the breath. And then you can expand your awareness of the touch of the breath to more subtle sensations within it. When you breathe in, the air feels just a little bit cooler. And when you breathe out, the air feels just a little warmer. When you breathe in, the air feels a little drier. And when you breathe out, the air feels a little more moist. So observe the movement of the breath and the touch and sensations of the breath, and just stay with it. Stay with it. Sometimes distractions will come up. Oftentimes as sounds, we'll hear sounds outside or in the room, and the mind will move away from the breath to those sounds. In the moment you become aware of that, just gently, with real compassion, guide your awareness back to the triangular area of the nose and simply reestablish awareness there. Reestablish awareness of the breath. If you hear a sound and you react to it with negativity, then you'll begin to suffer in at least a very small way. Instead, just let go and return to the breath over and over. Sometimes distractions come up in the form of strong physical sensations, a tickle on the skin or an itch, or sometimes pain or discomfort. Again, the moment you notice that, this is a wonderful moment, a wonderful opportunity to guide the awareness back to the breath. Return to the breath. Reestablish awareness of the breath. And in working with distractions in this way, you are beginning to train the mind not to react to negativity, to distractions, not to react with negativity to discomfort. Sometimes we'll find that the mind is distracted away just in thoughts, random images, planning, remembering. In the same way, when you notice this, this is a moment for awakening. Return the awareness to the breath. Stay focused on the breath. Re-establish awareness of the breath. Just let the thoughts of the mind fade away without reacting. No reacting with negativity, just letting go. Stay with the breath. And let's share just a few minutes of silent meditation together, practicing in this way, returning again and again and releasing distractions. In just a few moments or a few minutes, I'll sound the bell to end this meditation. Take a little time coming out of your meditation. Just gently bring your awareness back to the room. This is a real good time to stand up and stretch or move your body around, change positions, whatever feels good. Before we began our meditation, I started the teapot in the kitchen. And for anyone who wasn't here or didn't know, I put cups in there. There's a bunch of different kinds of teas. And so I know sometimes after we sit in meditation, you're pretty relaxed and it can be hard to stay awake. So feel free to go get a cup of tea and come back if you would like to. In meditation practice, especially in insight meditation practice, which is really what we're doing, we're combining a few types of meditation together into one practice. The first one is samatha, which means calm abiding. And what we're doing in calm abiding, it's really establishing a safe, peaceful, pleasant place to dwell within our own bodies. And so often that's not the case. Many of us are in kind of a state of constant conflict with our own bodies for a variety of reasons. You know, as we get older, we have different aches and pains and ailments and things like that. There are things we wish we could do that we couldn't do, or maybe we wish we weighed a different amount than we do. You know, there's so much non-acceptance, so much conflict in the body, that the first part, samatha, it gives you a real place of refuge and peacefulness where you can go, which that word refuge is very important, because if you're being bombarded with difficulties in your life, lots of stress, lots of fear, lots of anger, you know, you need a place where you can go, a place that's wholesome and healthy and safe. And so the body can be that place. And then from there, and one of the other aspects of that particular part of the practice, the body scan, calm abiding, is that it begins to focus the mind, narrows it down to being focused on parts of the body, one by one, for brief periods of time. Then we bring it to the nose and we start to observe the breath. We become aware that the breath has this amazing quality to it that can focus our awareness much deeper than moving through the body, doing the body scan. So now we're just in this very small place observing, but there's so much to observe. There's that movement of the breath, there's the touch and the sensations, so much going on with the breath. But the more we stay focused on it, the more the mind is getting tuned to stay focused. The smaller the area of focus, the sharper the mind becomes. And then we'll start to notice the distractions as they come up. The sounds, the sensations in the body, the aches and pains, the thoughts about what we'll do when we're done here. And so this becomes a very interesting part of the meditation. This is the vipassana part, the insight part. And what we see is that our reactions really kind of determine what our experience is going to be in the next few seconds. So we notice that when we hear a sound and we kind of are annoyed by it, there's nothing wrong with being annoyed, but we just notice, oh yeah, when I get kind of irritated or annoyed by a sound, I feel sort of agitated now, and I feel kind of, I don't feel as good as I did when I was just letting everything go. So just that little experience is so helpful, and that's where we get the insight from, is from seeing that happen, or the ache or the pain in the body. It's so easy to meet those aches and pains in the body with negativity. Oh, I hate this pain that I live with. I hate this, continuous pain in my knee, or continuous pain in my back, and I wish it would just go away. And so there's so much negativity and aversion towards the pain that we feel in the body, which is really quite natural. But what we discover is that if pain is going to be there, whether we hate it or not, or whether we push it away or we don't, if it's going to be there anyway, then try, just as an experiment, what if I just allow it to be there, just as it is? If it's going to be there anyway, what if I just allow it to be there? Give it space to do whatever it's doing. And when you start to do that, you notice that within that spaciousness, that expansiveness of consciousness, that the pain can be there, and your awareness can also be there without the ill will or the negativity. It's really it's kind of an astonishing thing. The other thing that we see in doing this a little bit is that the stuff we think that normally happens kind of all together. Something happens, we react to it, we're having an experience, and it usually just feels like it happens in a split second. What we discover in the Vipassana part of the practice is that there's really a gap between all these things. There's a cause, there's an effect, there's some sort of a sensation that arises, whether it's external or internal. We start to react to the sensation, but between that sensory awareness and the reaction, there's a little space there. There's a little gap. Normally we don't see it because we're pretty much on autopilot. So that gap seems to just be jumped almost like a spark plug gap. It's so fast you don't even see it. But in the stability of meditation, we see that. Oh yeah, there's that gap. Here's what's happening. This is my turn, my time to decide how I want to react to it. And here's the reaction. And so with a little experimentation, we see, well, when I react with negativity, I feel kind of crummy. And when instead I just release it and move to equanimity, just let go, peace, balance, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. So that's kind of, in an overview, what's happening in just that simple meditation practice. So there's so much going on, but it's so powerful. And what I recommend for people to do is, as you get further and further into your meditation practice and you expand it, that you put more time on the back end, more time on the breathing meditation, which is really where you'll start to see these other things coming up. But you'll start to, it's like a laboratory inside your own body and mind that you're working with. And the product of that is tremendous wisdom. Tremendous wisdom comes from that. And we're going to talk a little bit about wisdom tonight. But before we do that, I just want to read you a little Zen story that kind of ties in. So this is a Zen story from Japan. A beautiful girl in the village was pregnant. And usually when a story starts out with that sentence, it means there's trouble. But a beautiful girl in the village was pregnant. Her angry parents demanded to know who the father was. At first, resistant to confess, the anxious and embarrassed girl finally pointed to Hakuin, the Zen master whom everyone had previously revered for living such a pure life. So this guy was a Zen priest at a monastery there in this village. And when the outraged parents confronted Hakuin with their daughter's accusation, he simply said, "Is that so?" He simply said, "Is that so?" In Japanese, that would go, "Aso desu ka? Aso desu ka?" That's "is that so" in Japanese. So later, when the child was born, the parents brought it to Hakuin, who now was viewed as a pariah by the whole village. because they thought he had taken advantage of this girl. They demanded that he take care of the child since it was his responsibility. "Is that so?" Hakuin said calmly as he accepted the child. For many months, he took very good care of the child until the young mother could no longer withstand the lie she had told. She confessed that the real father was a young man in the village whom she had tried to protect. The parents immediately went to Hakuin to see if he would return the baby. With profuse apologies, they explained what had happened. "Is that so?" Hakuin said as he handed them the child. So, as a little follow-up Zen parable to what I was talking about in that experience of meditation, that "is that so" mind of Hakuin, that's wisdom in a whole lot of different ways. But here was a person who was wise enough not to react with negativity to any of these things. And so he was present enough and wise enough not to react with defensiveness or anger when he was confronted with this accusation. He didn't get caught up in it. He just said, "Is that so?" I mean, he didn't know at that time what was going to happen next. Somebody came, made the accusation. He just said, "Oh, is that so? Is that right?" And in Japanese, that's not it's polite. It's a polite way of saying that. So, hearing the initial accusation, he was just ready to return to equanimity. Okay. And he went on with things. And then when the child was born, presumably several months later, when they brought it to him, his reputation had really been tarnished by this whole thing. So you'd think he might be angry, might be ready to lash out at the parents or the girl. But they brought him this child, and so he said, "Is that so?" And he took very good care of the baby. And again, that's wisdom. I have a baby here. Baby needs love. Baby needs affection. Baby needs to eat well. Baby needs to be cared for. So he did that. He did that without being bitter about his reputation and the lies that had been told. So he just took care of the baby. That was the next thing that needed to happen. Return to equanimity. And then when they came and took the baby away, I'm sure there was love and affection for that baby, and I'm sure he was, what we would normally call attached to that baby. But he just turned it over, and he didn't want the parents to grovel and really apologize profusely. He just gave it back, and that was the end of that. So that's a story about someone who has developed wisdom to a level where when things come up, he's just not willing to go straight to negativity. He's willing to take some time and just move back into equanimity. And then in the course of doing that, he's doing something very wise and very helpful. But really, he kind of put himself on the line to do something which was very kind to the girl, very kind to the family, let them save face, very important in that culture. Cared for the baby, which may have been mistreated if it had stayed with them, and then giving that healthy baby back, and more or less just letting go of the whole bad drama. He stayed within his equanimity, so he did a great service, but he also stayed peaceful and calm within himself. So that's an example of wisdom.
When I first heard that story, it was showing, it was teaching me acceptance.
Yeah, very much acceptance. Very much acceptance. It's kind of like
and what you were saying about pain earlier.
Yeah.
Try not to fight it.
Right.
It's really hard with pain.
Yeah, pain is one of the most personal and intense experiences we can have. Pain is really, that's a tough thing to deal with. So it's sort of, it seems counterintuitive when someone says, well, if the pain's there, see if you can make peace with that. Mm-hmm. See if you can just get to a place where And the way I say it is, if it's going to be there and it's going to be that way no matter what, then the decision you make on how you want to be with it is going to make the difference between happiness and suffering, or between peace and conflict. So it really does come down to a choice at that point, you know. So acceptance, but acceptance with wisdom, you know, that's the key too, because acceptance with wisdom allows us to not be like taken advantage of or to be victimized, you know, but it's acceptance with a mind that is filled with wisdom. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We'll begin to talk about it at least, which is wisdom. But yeah, when I read that story, I just thought kind of, of myself. I thought, how would I react if something like that happened? I probably would become quite defensive for a period of time, and probably a little bit angry and kind of worried about my reputation and that sort of thing. And so it's a valuable story if you can remember that. Just, is that so? So when your boss brings you some disaster of a project and drops it in your lap, maybe you can remember to say, is that so? Or
What
when
the hell?
Depending on how frequent.
yeah, maybe.
Some of us, if someone dropped a baby off with us, we'd be like,
Yeah, I don't think I can say, is that so?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into this teaching. So this is actually part 3 on the 10 perfections. So I have a handout, part 1 of the 10 perfections, also part 2. Now we're on part 3. Some of you may need all 3 of these to get caught up.
This is today's?
That's today's, yep. Thank you so much, Cheryl,
You did last week?
for always doing that.
Oh, I don't need last week's, thank you.
You did the other one?
Because I think we may have spent like 2 weeks working with each topic. So the topic is the 10 perfections. The 10 paramis is the Pali word. And feel free to turn on the lamps. Do you need all 3 of those songs, probably?
Yeah, you see when you do it.
So last week wasn't a totally new one then? You said you spent 2 weeks on...
Yeah, there was no new handout last week. It was part 2 of that same discussion. So,
There's today's.
thank you so much. A few extras, wonderful. If anybody ever needs extra copies of this because you lose yours or you gave it away to somebody when you had coffee with them, or something like that, just let me know. I can print more of these. There are more of these. There's also a table out there in the community room that is full of these handouts from previous talks where there were a lot of leftovers, or at least some leftovers. So they're all out there. Help yourself to those. Thumb through them. Each little stack of paper is one talk. So there's quite a few of them out there. There's probably at least 30 different talks out there on that table. So help yourself. It's a great way to use them up. So the 10 perfections. This is the 3rd handout on the 10 perfections, and I'll go through what they are again. Dana parami, which is the perfection of giving. Sila parami, the perfection of virtue. Nakama parami, the perfection of renunciation. That's the one we finished up last week. Panya parami, which is the perfection of discerning wisdom, which is what we're going to start discussing tonight. And then the remaining paramis, Viraya parami, the perfection of energy. Pardon me. Kanti parami, the perfection of patience. Saka parami, the perfection of truthfulness. Aditana parami, the perfection of determination. Metta parami, the perfection of loving kindness. And Upeka parami, the perfection of equanimity. And when I think about that Hakuin story with the baby, I think you could go through that story and probably identify an example of all 10 of the paramis being expressed by Hakuin in his behavior and in his actions, his thoughts and his actions. So we'll start with this perfection of discerning wisdom. One of the things that I have said at the beginning of each of these classes is that these are not something that you don't have, that you need to get. These are things you do have already. These are parts of your original nature as a human being. But it is more than likely that some of these have been covered over by layers of dust over the years, where just because of different situations we've been in or different ways of thinking, some of these have just been kind of covered up and obscured. So the idea of this talk is to really kind of recognize these within yourself. It's like, oh yeah, there's that, I do that, I experience that, this one makes sense, this resonates. So it's a way of kind of polishing these off, cleaning the dust off of them, and there they are in their perfection. And so there they are in you, expressing your perfection. In the Dhammapada, this is a fun verse. A fool with a sense of his foolishness is, at least to that extent, wise. But a fool who thinks himself wise really deserves to be called a fool. So I like that one because I try to, when I don't know, I try to recognize that I don't know. And that's helpful because it allows me to ask for help. It allows me to ask for advice. And I find that that's a wonderful thing. And about the only cost to that is sometimes you have to let go of a little bit of pride. Sometimes I think that's the reason that we behave in that way. But yeah, a fool with a sense of his own foolishness is at least to that extent wise. So we've got that going for us for sure. Panya Parami, the perfection of discerning wisdom. Alternate translations of discerning wisdom. Sometimes it's translated as discriminating wisdom. Sometimes it's translated as transcendental wisdom. And sometimes it's expressed as insight. So sometimes I think it's helpful to look at those terms, how they're different and how they're alike, but that there is, kind of more than one way of looking at what this discerning wisdom is. If I was going to just kind of put it in a nutshell, not based on what's specifically in the handout, I would say a big part of it is wisdom of, awareness of, knowledge of the fact that in life we inevitably run into stuff that causes us to suffer. There's that word dukkha. And that word dukkha, it's often translated as suffering, but it means things like distress, dis-ease, worry, agitation, just feeling bad. It's kind of a term with a lot of subtleties to it. So it's just, again, we translate it often as suffering, but it can often be something very subtle. So maybe stress is a good way of looking at it tonight, thinking about dukkha as stress. So that would be the first thing I would say, is that an awareness that we all experience that dukkha in our lives, but that it has a cause. Dukkha is caused by something called tanha, and tanha means craving. So it's like we are perpetually seeking something to make us happy, perpetually seeking something to make us feel good or to make us feel complete. And that could be something as subtle as if you're sitting in a chair in your house, a few seconds go by, you think, well, I'm going to read a book. So you get a book, You sit back down in your chair, you get comfortable again. You know what I need? I need a cup of tea. So you get up, you make the cup of tea, you sit down with that, get ready to read your book, and you realize, oh, the TV is on. So you get up and you turn off the TV. It can be something as subtle as just that. I was going to sit down for a while, and then it became this, and it became this, and it became sort of this list of things I needed to do to make this experience finally be acceptable or finally be good enough. That's an example of craving. Now, it doesn't mean it's wrong. If you're sitting down and you're cold, doesn't mean, well, if you're wise, you'll sit there and stay cold. No, go up and get a blanket. But it is to be aware how often the mind goes there. How often it is that just whatever we're doing, whoever we're with, whatever is happening, how often it is that we're trying to manipulate that experience in some way to make it a little better, to make us a little more happy. The problem in doing that is that none of those things really has the ability to make you happy. They can give you some temporary satisfaction, but if you take this now to kind of another way on the other end of the spectrum, if you say, well, I'll be happy if I make a certain amount of money so that I can buy nice things or have nice things or be respected. Well, what you're doing is you're saying that the ingredients of happiness are that. And so you can put all your time and energy into pursuing that and getting that, and the unfortunate discovery will be it didn't provide you with happiness. Because dukkha comes up again. Dukkha comes up in the form of, now I'm paranoid about losing my job. I'm worried about all the people in my office stabbing me in the back. I'm worried about these new employees who are super smart, probably smarter than me. And I don't want them to get promoted. And, just one thing after another. Well, I've got the stuff. If I lose my job, I'll lose the stuff. If I lose my stuff, I'll lose the respect. It goes on and on and on. So it's insidious, but it's this awareness that the suffering we experience, the dukkha, in all of its different levels, is caused by craving after things that really can't provide us with any sort of lasting happiness. And so we just bring ourselves back again and again to this point of suffering. The thing we discover then is that we have this thing called the wanting mind. And so the wanting mind shows up with all of these weird ideas. I have a grocery list that I keep in my little notebook. And I used to call it grocery list. I changed the name of it to wanting mind because I look at it and I see how when I write these things on my grocery list that it's like something else takes place in my consciousness where it's like, I gotta get that. It's like, I gotta get that. And it could be something silly like,
Buddha.
Yeah, it could be a Buddha. It could be a Buddha. Yeah. That was a good example because Cheryl had just painted that Buddha because that had been my favorite Buddha for years and years. And I loved it. She painted it. It was perfect. And then she took this photo and sent it to me of another Buddha that was even bigger and even more beautiful. And so right away, the satisfaction.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, very reasonable price. All those things I used to rationalize saying yes to that purchase. But, it's like, okay, this was the good Buddha. I was fine with it. He was going to be the center's Buddha. And then another Buddha came up, and I really wanted that Buddha. So then it was a matter of getting it. And, it's fun things too. But it's just awareness that this is the process that goes on within us. And so we become aware of this other kind of really sort of funny thing to bump into, which is that the wanting mind comes up, and so we think, I've got to get whatever it is that the wanting mind wants, whatever's on our list, whether literally or metaphorically. And we go out and get the thing, and the wanting mind subsides, and we associate that with, aha, we think cause and effect. I wanted the thing, it drove me nuts. I got the thing, now I'm happy. We think then, cause and effect, the thing made me happy. I got the thing I wanted, it made me happy. What's really happening is the arising and falling of the wanting mind. The wanting mind will come up and the wanting mind will go away. Through practice, we can sort of make the shortcut and say, you know what? I don't need that. I really don't need that. This is the wanting mind showing up. Or is this something that's really important or necessary, for my well-being or for my health or, something like this? So it's a way of kind of sorting through that. But what we experience is the wanting mind comes up and it kind of gnaws at us. I mean, it's enough to get us to get up off the comfortable chair and make a cup of tea when we really want to just sit at the chair. The wanting mind is enough, and we don't need a cup of tea, we just want it. But as long as that's there, it's like, oh, I can't sit here and relax anymore, I gotta get the cup of tea. Wanting mind, it's like poking at you until you go do it, right?
So was that a test when you said if anyone would like tea?
No. Nope, that was a legitimate offer, and it had nothing to do with it. So I hope if
We
you.
were all so content we didn't even need any tea.
Yeah. So I hope if No, the reason for that is I just know that it's sometimes real tough after a long meditation like that to stay awake enough to feel, and when you're fighting the yawns, sometimes that's no fun. So yeah, I just wanted to share. That's a good question. But notice that within yourself. So again, it doesn't mean everything you want is a bad thing or a problem. It just means notice how often it is that things that are perfectly satisfactory in your life are interrupted by these episodes of the wanting mind showing up. There have also been times that you've wanted something really bad and you didn't get it, but something made you change your mind and then you no longer wanted it. And so it's, okay, that's interesting, because there's that thing I wanted, I changed my mind that I didn't want it, and now the wanting mind is gone. You didn't get the thing. So what this is pointing out is it's not the thing. The thing has no intrinsic quality of satisfaction to us. It's simply the mind saying, I wanted that, I need that, it's going to bug me until I get that. You get it, the wanting mind subsides, we connect the two, thinking the getting equaled the happiness, when really it's the arising and falling of the wanting mind, because we can work with the presence of the wanting mind to calm it down, and then we feel perfectly happy again. Equanimity, it's back. So being aware of that. So that's kind of my summary of really what wisdom is, because wisdom is of something. I mean, this is all wisdom directed at how can you find peace and happiness in your life? How can you find the ability to let go a little bit? And so this is really kind of it in a nutshell, that there's suffering. The suffering is caused by craving, or this thing called the wanting mind. And the wanting mind it's like a coin. If you flip it over, it's the not wanting mind. So there can be, same kind of thing. I do not want this to happen. I do not want that to happen. Can be the same effect. That's still the wanting mind. But the suffering we experience is caused by the wanting mind. And when the wanting mind subsides, the suffering also subsides along with it. And we can watch that happen over and over and over. And then a lot of the Dhamma that we work with each week is about, so how do we make that happen? So it's very practical. It can be quite concise, like just the way I explained it, or it can be super deep, which is one of the reasons that a lot of people like it. Because some of us, the way our brains are, we really like to have some stuff to chew on mentally in order to feel good about what it is that we're working with. one of the things that I would do with these teachings is when I was in long-term retreats, doing long meditations each day, is there was a portion of those days that I would try to poke holes in any of these theories. I would try and figure out any way that I could come up with that this was not right or not true or in some way was just wrong or didn't work. And so it was kind of my test. In order for me to feel that I can teach this to other people, I need to know that this thing is, essentially bulletproof. This has got to be solid. And I have, in all those hours of sitting in meditation, I've not been able to poke holes in this stuff. And that's one of the neat things I think about what the Buddha said was, try it out and see what you think. And if it doesn't work, well then, by all means, go do something else. But he had confidence to say, this works. Just try it. You'll like it. It works for you. So after my initial sort of overview on that, does that wanting mind thing make sense to people? I've written a couple of handouts on that. There's probably a bunch of them out there that say wanting mind. I think I've titled a couple of them wanting mind, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to work with. I remember and I may have shared this before, but the wanting mind can come out of nothing, and it can have nothing to do with need. I remember when I was in high school, everybody had a big tape recorder, big tape deck, like a boombox kind of a thing. And one day my buddy Chuck showed up at school, and he had a Sony Walkman, right, with the small headphones and and it was a cassette player. I had no idea such a thing exists. He just showed up one day, he had it. Right away it was like, my God, purpose of my life for the next however long it is for me to have one of those, And so I finally got one. But I was just like obsessed with the idea, and it was interesting because when I reflect back on it now, I remember so clearly how obsessed I was with getting one, but it's also something that was just absolutely unnecessary. It wasn't, it wasn't something I needed. It was just, this was pure desire. I want that. If I have it, I'll be happy. I can listen to the songs I like all the time. That'll make me happy. And then I got one of those, and then I remember, some years later, that the disc things came out instead, the Discman, Sony Discman, and so I still had the Walkman. It was probably the second or third one I had, but now I didn't want that anymore. The thing that I wanted so bad, I didn't care about that. I wanted now the disc thing, and so I got that, and then MP3 players came along, and it's just, but it's kind of being aware, it's oftentimes, maybe most oftentimes, it's not about real needs, it's not about shelter or food or medicine or things like that. It's just about ideas that we have that, hey, I'll be happier if I have that. And sometimes it goes from silly things like Walkmans, and it can move into things like how we view our relationships with partners or with family members, is that we can start to get hung up on it needs to be a certain way. I shared with everybody kind of the meaning of that little thing. I stuck it on the bulletin board, let it be enough. Just kind of a reminder that there's all sorts of wonderful things happening in relationships, but we're so often, we'll try and over-analyze them and reinterpret them, and what did that really mean, and what's the secret code behind what this says and that says. And
wow, I'm staying single.
and I wish it was this way or that way,
Crap.
but
Sounds like too much work.
yeah. So just being aware of that, it's enough to just make you say, I surrender. Whatever's here is good. So next week we'll start to dig into this particular handout on discerning wisdom, and how we really work with this in a way that is very helpful. So I hope you'll come back next week and we'll begin to talk about this together. We have a couple of minutes here. Any questions or comments on this?
Well, I had a very interesting experience over the weekend. We were coming back on the Great River Road from camping, and we were at a wayside rest, and we were picnicking, and all of a sudden, this kid pops off his bike. Long stringy hair, baggy pants, barefoot. He had a milk crate on the back of his bicycle with bananas and a Mexican sweater in it. And he hops off and he goes, "It's a great day to be alive." And Dave and I were like, and we asked him where he's from, and he was originally from Minneapolis, but he says, "But I love everywhere." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And then we were asking him, "How far do you go in a day?" And he says, 30 or 40 miles. And it's like, it was just so eye-opening in terms of someone who doesn't need anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I didn't see a tent. I'm like, where do you sleep? What happens when it storms and you're on your bike? Where are you going? And he had a ukulele on his back, in a leather case. It's like, does he make money playing? I'm like,
Wow.
I'm sitting there going, he was like probably like 21.
Was he happy with you?
And then he went, he said, "Take care," and gave us a peace sign. He was like a little hippie kind of, from back in the day.
That's
And
cool.
we were just like blown away, and then he says, "Well, be careful on your bike," and he's on this Highway 35 with trucks, and I'm like, but that's an example of someone who has such an optimistic attitude,
Mm-hmm.
is so grateful,
Mm-hmm.
and it really doesn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really, it was really, the whole thing lasted probably 6 minutes, our
Mhm.
interchange with each other, but it really affected me. I put it on Facebook. I'm like, it's just really something else.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really neat. Sometimes we meet these little people that kind of wonder, who sent you here? Why are you showing up in front of me today? I'm supposed to learn
Fulfill a
something.
purpose of some kind.
Yeah.
It was sending a message for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just before we conclude tonight, I'm going to try and leave about 5 minutes at the end of our evenings so that we can do comments. And, questions, of course, and comments are welcome throughout, but I want to also allow a little time because some people would prefer to wait until the end, and then I can do any announcements that we have. So there's a bulletin board in the community room right out there where I'm trying to post, maybe events that are coming up or anything pertinent. So I just want to mention that if you want to take a look at it. Also, there's the Donna box out there where you can put community ed payments or payments to me, or if you want to make a donation to the center, all of that is welcome. And maybe just think on, if I do this talk twice a week, what would be good days to do it? And I'm kind of open to whenever, but yeah, this is a neat time where we're kind of going to create the schedule for this place. So if you think about it and you want to text me or email me or just wait till next week and mention it, I would love to hear it. So before we go, let's just take 1 minute together to cultivate 4 Brahma Viharas, and I'll close this out with the big bell tonight. So we think about the other beings in the world, living beings like the one that Linda encountered and shared her story, and all the others, and we think may all these beings be well. May they all be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. And may all these beings, all these wonderful beings, may they be free, or may they be surrounded by love and kindness. Love and kindness. And may these beings be joyful and happy. And may these beings be equanimous, which means that they're not being tortured by the wanting mind or in a constant state of want or worry, but really peaceful, balanced, and free. And may you, here tonight with me, sharing this space, may you all be truly, truly happy. Namaskar, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.